Yeah, thank you all for making it to Creative Morning Charlottesville for our first traditional speaker event in a few months. We took the summer off, but thank you all so much for coming back out. If you haven't been to a Creative Mornings event before, Creative Mornings is international. There are, as of when this slide was copied, at least 252 chapters across 7 countries. And every month across the world, across all these locations, the chapters find a speaker in their community to speak on the shared theme, more or less. But generally the idea is to spotlight creatives in our different communities. And over 20,000 people attend Creative Mornings events in person or virtually every month, so thank you for being part of that. The theme for October is soft. It was chosen from our Victoria chapter in British Columbia with this illustration by Leah McInnes. And as always, we want to briefly thank Adobe for sponsoring the international operations of Creative Mornings. They just launched a new series on their website called Grow to Pro to help with building your skills, making the most of Adobe tools. And they also now have a creative apprenticeship program to help emerging creatives with mentorship, getting new projects, and helping build their portfolio to find job opportunities. So in addition to our global sponsor, Adobe, I really want to thank our local partners, UVA Arts, New City Arts, and the Fralin Museum of Art at the University of Virginia. We're going to talk about some events that are happening at each. So there are 2 events coming up at New City Art. So tonight at 6 p.m., if you want to have, start your day with a talk, end your day with a talk, from 6 to 7:30, there's a presentation and conversation with Elena Yu, the October exhibiting artist, and Judy Jacob, retired National Park Service senior conservator, on gravestones, lichens, microorganisms, and the complexities of cemetery preservation. So a lot of things to latch on to. So please stop by. I think there's going to be light snacks and drinks. And then Wednesday is the monthly co-working at Welcome Gallery. So if you like the show and you want to just feel inspired by it ambiently while you do work, you can drop in also light refreshments, coffee and pastries from 10 to 5 this upcoming Wednesday. We also have some events at the Fralin, if Lisa wants to speak to those.
Yes, hi everyone. I'm Lisa Cherbeck. I work at the Fralin, and yes, we first of all just come see our exhibitions. I know some of you have been recently and have seen just, I'm going to say this all the time, but right now especially our exhibitions are just like nothing we've ever had before. So I highly recommend to come see them. Great events coming up. So we, as part of the In Feeling, which the exhibition on tension and empathy through disability, we're starting a sound bath series with Carrie and Michelle, who many of you may know is a local, wellness expert. We have a creative writing workshop, which is free next Saturday to help you if you're interested in participating in our Writer's Eye competition. Our final Friday monthly event is on Halloween, so if you want to show off your costumes and have a little fun, especially if you have little ones you're going to do trick-or-treating on the lawn, stop by. And then lastly, also part of In Feeling is the sound artist Jerome Ellis is one of the participating artists. He will be here doing a live sound performance in his installation, which is called the Sonic Bathhouse. So I think some of you probably, I think I remember you were at Jerron Herman's performance because you participated. So it's this exhibition, it's immersive, it's incredible. Please come. Everything is free. And yes. And I realized I have to get you our new logo because we have new branding, which is, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, because now we're fun.
And yeah, I mean, I should have called out. So, like I said, this is our first more traditional speaker event we've had. But last month, we were lucky enough to go to the Fralin to get a tour of 2 of the exhibitions. They were great. There was so much going on. We got towards the 2 exhibitions, but there were more going on, like and feeling. So even if you did get to go and see the 2 shows we did see, go back and see the rest.
And this year is our 90th anniversary, and we're having a big party on November 7th at Mary Mill Winery. It's going to be an amazing party with lots of art, including the lovely and talented Annie Temmick, who's yes, some of her incredible pieces are going to be modeled by members of ORH Dance, who formerly Cumulus, I believe, or offshoot of Cumulus. Rodney McMillan, who is a UVA alum, big time artist, is going to be honored at the event he's putting on an installation piece. It's come as you art creative cocktail, so if you like dressing up in fun creative ways, come on out.
Thank you so much. And one more event, Charlottesville Zine Fest.
Hello, I'm Jess Walters. I am a co-founder, co-organizer of the Charlottesville Zine Fest. This is our 3rd annual community event, and it's going to be held at the JMRL Central Library downtown tomorrow from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. I will be tabling and selling many zines and cool buttons. I think we have more than 30 vendors this year, which is a huge crowd for a small group of people. I'm really excited about it and happy to answer any questions you might have, but please come to Zine Fest, bring cash, wear a mask.
Thank you. And also thank you to our host, WTJU, for letting us use their beautiful space. If you want to learn more, they put zines on all your chairs. So, zines. Also, thank you, as always, to Ian for the videography. If you have missed our previous events, there are great videos of all of them on our website, care of Ian, and for Corbin as Bat House Photography for the photography. If you want to see photos of us looking at the art at the Fralin, those will be up on the website soon. And to the Creative Mornings Charlottesville organizing team, including the folks who can be here today, Maureen and Emma and Corey, as well as Jess. If you'd like to volunteer, reach out to Charlottesville at CreativeMornings.com or our Instagram, or talk to one of us. We would love help. And the number one way people find out about Creative Mornings is from people who already come. So if you have a good time, come back, bring a friend next time. We'd love to have them. And with all of that out of the way, I'm going to introduce Miranda. Miranda is a puppeteer, math magician, and Quaker mystic, as well as the director of Neville Short's Puppet Works. Welcome, Miranda.
Thank you.
So I think this is a small group, and I can just use my teacher voice and just talk to you. Is that going to work? I'm going to even try sitting on a chair for a sort of cozy fireside chat vibe. And maybe even people who are in the back would consider scooting forward a little bit. It's okay if you don't. It's all right.
I'm only a little bit
All right. Well, hello, kind friends and acquaintances and strangers.
Hello.
My name's Miranda. When I was invited to speak at Creative Mornings, I thought about what if I'm sort of pulling the curtain to reveal what's behind my creative process? What's important to me to share with people? What would I want to say? And the first things that I thought of, what came to me was what I want other people to know about my creative process and about my work is kind of all these little things that sort of what I thought they had in common was being essentially sort of structures, or maybe you could probably call them practices. But if something's a practice, I also kind of like to refer to it as a ritual because it gives it a sense of magic and solemnity and importance beyond itself. to call something a ritual. And then when I thought about all those things that I might share, I was like, well, I didn't actually make any of those up. Most of them I got from books. And so I decided that the subtitle of Structures and Rituals is an annotated bibliography of books that support my creative process. So I'm just going to share a little bit about like each of these books and something that, well, not quite all of them, but I'll talk about some of them. And how they support being creative, doing art, and keeping doing art, which was my source for this question, what do you do when you feel stuck? Because some of those answers are some of these practices, and maybe you have practices that you do too. Maybe you have little rituals. And I'm very excited for the getting people to talk to each other part. But the very first book that I want to talk about is actually a book that I don't have a copy of. I checked it out from a library in approximately 2006, and I haven't read it since then. But some essential things from it have stayed with me all this time. And that book is called Writing with Power, and it's by a guy named Peter Elbow, who has a great memorable name. And Writing with Power is very much I think he describes it as like a democratizing writing book. And he talks a lot about, he's very like pro doing lots of free writing guy. And I think that his sort of school of thought influenced a lot of my teachers in middle and high school. And he, at some point, lived in my hometown, Olympia, Washington, and taught there. And the practice in particular he talks about in Writing with Power is something called loop writing. And he describes this metaphor of when you need to write something, you're like a little boat on a beach. And when you start to write, you like write out into the water and sort of out into the unknown in some sense. And then at some point you need to, like, the paper is due or whatever, or you need to get this to the magazine, or you just, you are worried that it's been too long since you sent your friend a letter or whatever. And then you start to loop back and take what you've written and turn it into a form that can be shared and that makes sense and is sort of organized and together. And I remember, I think I was always very, very, very stressed out by writing papers in school. And I was reading this book when I had to write college admissions essays. And I remember this being sort of very liberating to me somehow as a practice. And there was a section where he said, even if you only have 4 hours to write a paper, split that time in half. Spend the first 2 hours just writing down everything you can, just not worrying about whether it's good or whether it's right or whether it's spelled correctly or whether it makes any sense. And then take what you have and spend the second 2 hours putting it together into something. Because then you'll get something real and you won't keep short-circuiting yourself by being scared. And so I think about this kind of draft making out into the exploratory unknown and then bringing back into the world of having you sort of find out what structure something has, and then you give it its structure and make it in a form that can be shared or that is the shape that it needs to be to go out into the world. And that's, even though I'm not a writer, I make puppet shows and I make visual art sometimes and other random stuff. I think about that sort of having an exploratory experiment phase where I see, what do these materials want to do? Where does this story want to go? What else might be possible here? And at some point when it's kind of about halfway before I've decided that I'm going to do the thing, or I've like reserved the room or whatever, then I'm like, okay, let's pare it away. Let's see what I can get together. Let's put some of these, let's reject this thing that's not working, and kind of bring them back into a structure. And after the section on loop writing, he has a little sort of coda to it, where he says, sometimes you want to write about something, but it doesn't have a due date. And he says, for this, I picture it as just an oceanic voyage. You just start writing, and you just go, and you see where it will take you. And I tried doing that with writing a few times. And that really just sort of writing for my personal thought processes. But I think that I do it sometimes with creative projects too. Just I have this image. Where does it want to go? There's no due date for it. Let's just have a few of these just kind of out there. I have a sort of, I don't know, like sort of a little Voyager spacecraft. It's like, oh, it's past the solar system now, but it's still doing stuff. Okay, cool. Let's just see what's out there. And I feel like in a creative project world, sort of having a few little boats that are doing that may or may not come back, or may or may not slowly loop back into something. Gives me a lot of sense of hope and like, oh, like, sure, I'm like working on this thing right now and maybe I'm annoyed with it right now, but someday I'll work on that guy who's like way out there. What will that become? So that's Writing with Power by Peter Elbow. It's great. I don't have a copy of it. A lot of this is from memory. Maybe some of it's false. I don't know. And I think actually probably just because I was sort of thinking about them around a similar time, I don't know if I can really share a particular ritual or structure that came from this book called What It Is by Linda Berry, illustrated with more than color pictures. It's great. I highly recommend this book. This one, my mom got it signed to me and it says for Miranda, and then there's this picture that's a little monkey with an arrow around it, and it means keep monkeying around, which is really adorable. But this book is great, and I'm just going to pass this one around, just so it'll slowly just like pass around. Okay. The second structure or ritual that I wanted to talk about comes from this book. People in this crowd may be familiar with this book, ? Getting some nods, some acknowledgement. This copy used to belong to Nancy Galloway, and I found it in the McGuffey Free Pile. I think there were 2 different copies of it in the McGuffey Free Pile. And I have not read all of this book. I've only read like the first couple of chapters. And I actually skimmed through it in preparation for this talk, being like, I feel like I remember that after the first couple of chapters, there's like a note that says, try these things, and then if you need more, read the rest of the book. And I remember reading that or something like it, which I could not find in the book, and being like, okay, well, I'll try those things. And then if at some point they're not enough, I'll come back to the rest of this book. But her 2 things are writing morning pages. Does anybody here write morning pages?
I'm starting
sometime.
Again.
I know, I sometimes write some morning pages, then I was like, oh, the last morning pages I did are dated October 2022. So, there's something, I go in and out. I'm not a big journal. I'm not a writer, and that's okay. I'm at peace with not being a writer.
Wait, is a morning page morning like you're sad or morning like AM?
Oh, no, like in the morning in the AM. Okay. Like this is, I know, we're not sad about creativity here. It's like this, in the morning. You get up in the morning and you write 3 pages freehand of free writing. And it's sort of like a brain dump of all the stuff that's on your mind so that you can move on with your life. And the other part that she talks about she refers to as the artist date, or also the concept of filling the well. And for me, this structure or ritual of filling the well is she talks about how like when you're doing a creative thing, when you're like making something, the first time you make something exciting, like I don't know, like the first sort of big puppet show that I made or whatever, I was like 25, and I had all of my previous lived experience before me feeding what went into that piece. And then when you are like, then you're like ready to make another thing, and you're like, oh well, what am I drawing on? In some sense, like you still have all of the life experiences, which are in fact very dense, and you can sort of like think about where they're coming from. But the idea of filling the well is that there's like images and experiences and ideas and beauty that fill you up from the world, and that you draw on those when you make creative things. So you need to make sure to put water in there and not let your aquifer run dry from trying to just produce all the time and not also absorb an experience. And I really like, it's a great way to just be like, oh, I don't know if I'm like working on being an artist. And it's like, wait. Going and experiencing beauty somewhere is also working on being an artist. And I'd be like, okay, I'm filling the well by doing this. Whether that's like going and looking at a new place, or traveling, or going on a detailed nature walk, going and staring at lichens. I do a lot of staring at lichens recently. I'm working on a project about lichens. That way there was some tittering about the lichen talk. Or any kind of like going and seeing art somewhere else. This practice of filling the well is I don't know if it has the like sort of time delineation of a ritual, but it's something that gives a little structure to like, what am I doing with myself? How am I maintaining my creative life? Oh, I'm taking time to fill the well. I'll pass this one around too, for funsies. I have no idea what time it is. Great, it's perfect. And I'll talk briefly about this book because I'm saving this for last. This book is something that I love about maybe not about the creative process, but it's a great book about being an artist, and I have loaned to a lot of people. I think there's like a little, yes, here's the little annotations of people that I have loaned it to, including Cosmo. And this is in some sense, I describe it as being like a book about what it means to live on being an artist. And a book about, this guy, Lewis Hyde, writes a lot of nonfiction, but he's also a poet. And there's some sort of detailed biographies of the lives of poets, and like how there's a long section that's like about the life of Walt Whitman and how did he actually live and what did he live on and how did he manage to be a poet in the world. And he was sort of studying this, like, how do people manage to be poets, and why are poets sort of notoriously always poor in our culture? Or I remember reading a Russian poet writing, well, everyone is poor, so you might as well be a poet, which was like a different cultural perspective. But he was sort of into that, and he's like, well, this quality of like art is a gift. We talk about people being gifted in the arts. We talk about that art being a gift to people, and so if this art is a gift, you can't like pay for a gift. It makes it not a gift if you pay for it. And so when he was digging into that paradox of what does it mean to be an artist in the financial realities of our world, he ended up reading Marcel Mauss's book by the identical name, also called The Gift, from the 1920s, which is like a classical text of anthropology about gift-giving based societies and society whose economy is based on gift-giving, and then like researching and rehashing. So I read that book and I was like, oh, this is like the modern, better summary of that book. But I highly recommend this to anyone who's curious about the world of being an artist. The main thing I got from it was a section where he said that an artist with a day job is an artist who is their own patron. And as an artist with a day job, I'm like, oh yeah, I am my own patron. Made me feel more settled about that. Okay, we'll pass that one around. And now, the last and most important structure. When I thought about to myself, what do I want to share with people? What do I want to tell people about that I do as a creative person? I want to tell people about the 10 questions. And that's something that I 100% got from this book, A Choreographer's Handbook by Jonathan Burrows. And if you're someone who wants to make art that's sort of vaguely like dance in some way, this guy's a dancer and a dance choreographer. When I found myself excited about puppetry, I was like, oh, I need to like choreograph what the puppets are gonna do. I want these puppets that don't say anything. So they need to have like, I was like, I don't know anything about choreography, oh shit. And I was like, I will do what everyone in my family does, which is go to the library and check out all of the books about it from the library. And I went to the Clements Library at UVA or whatever and got a bunch of books about choreography. And one of them was great, and it was this one. One of my favorite things that I've kept as a ritual and a structure to my work is something called the 10 questions. It's all in like little funny little paragraphs. It's very like a good flip around book. It's good for bibliomancy also. You can just like close your eyes and open and see what kind of advice they have about making a performance. But questions says, questions. Ask yourself 10 questions a day for a week. Write them down and don't answer them. The one you need will do its job anyway, whether you look at them again or not. Within the limitless possibilities of the question which you have asked, accept the answer that you get. Underneath this is something sort of related called principles. Is there something, anything that tells you how to begin? Do one thing. What's the next thing you want to do? Try doing this for a week. It's only a stupid dance. And there's a few sort of like phrases that kind of, he like both talks about repetition and then kind of uses interesting artful repetition, and this repeats frequently, it's only a stupid dance, which I think is like a self-sanity mantra for him, but I've adopted it a little bit as a self-sanity mantra. I was like, it's literally only a puppet, it's a puppet show. It's a puppet show, it's inherently whatever. But I don't always do it for a week, but I do tend to, whenever I go into the studio, sit either at the beginning of my studio practice or at the end of the day, or if I just feel like I want to work on something but I don't know what, or I'm feeling frustrated or whatever, I sit and write 10 questions about my work, and I don't answer them and I leave them there. And it's kind of, I think it fills a similar function to sort of journaling or morning pages or something, but it's, because sometimes the questions end up being about my personal life and about, I was like, oh, that's what's stressing me out right now. I've ended up writing a question about that. But often they're about the work. And sometimes I'll like write 10 questions each day that I'm in the studio, and some of the questions will be the same. I'll be like, who will be a giant foot? Friends from the giant foot era know what I mean by this. It's kind of like puppetry problems, who will play the giant foot? And then sometimes I look back at the questions from years ago and I thought, oh, I really didn't know what the answer to this would be for a long time. And then I was like, oh, now I know how it got answered. It ended up happening. So for those of us who might be a little stressed out or overwhelmed by journaling, I highly recommend writing 10 questions about what you're doing, and then don't answer them. The one you need will do its job anyway, whether you look at them again or not. And with that, I think it's time for us to talk to each other a little bit. Yeah. Cool. Thanks, guys. Is this the part where they ask me questions?
Yeah, I was going to say.
I haven't ever been to a traditional Creative Mornings talk.
I totally have a question.
Ivy.
Yes. Oh my gosh, this is awesome. Thank you. I love these books. My question, and I love the going out into the ocean on the voyage, and we worked, adjacently twice. And my process is I go way out into the ocean for a long time, and then I have to come back real fast. And it's about, 10 feet from shore where I catch all the fish. Like what in the process, because how that occurs is me rolling in like an explosion. Embrace that, or there's a point of diminishing returns, and I'm at the level where I can kind of horse around like that. But
Horsing around sounds good.
Horsings are great, but at a certain level it's inconvenient. So that's where I'm like, how do I get the fish and complete that journey and, have the spaciousness at the time where the deadline occurs. That's I think the word I'm looking for.
Peter, in that context, Peter Elba's very specific advice was literally to take, here is now, here is when the thing is due, divide it in half. And be like, okay,
there's that
time to come back now.
About never catching, the half, half, I think I live in that
It's true.
space.
In
Yeah.
theory,
You
the
need-
time never arrives.
Yeah,
You need a half,
I
well, you need a half deadline.
But
incrementally
it does.
smaller, and then
Well, no, you don't reset it when you get there. It's like, okay, I'm in this
It's
work
not
project until
reset.
October 31st. And I was like, hey, okay,
I don't know.
time to make a thing with it.
The other part of that though is that almost every step of that is deliberate. Like you choose to go out, you choose to come back in, and I find as a creative, a lot of things come to me when I'm not being deliberate, and so I think there's a space we need to leave for that too, right?
Right. Yes.
And a
Hello.
question that came to mind when you were talking about how sometimes you send out several ships
Mhm.
and you just send them off. And I started thinking about, like, well, for me personally, when, those ships are off and I feel like I have no control over them anymore, and then they're I don't know where they are, when do we accept that maybe they just sunk?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think sometimes if it's like an idea that I'm sort of sending out into like thinking about like, okay, what does this image want to be? Where does it want to go? Maybe it just doesn't want to do anything with me. It's off on its adventure. It's okay. I don't know. Sometimes it's like, okay, sometimes I'm like, okay, if I forget about something, sometimes I'm like, oh shoot, I forgot this thing. And I'm like, if I need to remember it, it will come back to me. So I guess that's where I am that's where I see those guys. Yeah, this is a good question. Okay, we're gonna have Nancy and then the next person.
Related to that, one of my dear artist colleagues she makes a distinction. She said, this might be the one, or this might be the booster rocket to the one. So some of those boats can just be like, you don't have to become anything, but something else is going to come out.
Now I know more about how to make that shape of boat. Yeah, the booster rocket. I do a lot of mine. It's like, oh well, this turns out to have been a draft for X.
Booster rockets are important.
Yeah. Person in flowers.
Yeah, so much of what I heard you explain sounded like play to me, and in the best possible way. And it almost was like these are all things that we inherently knew how to do as children. We knew how to just create, and we knew how to just go out into the ocean and not be overwhelmed by what is this supposed to be. And then I think what these tools are helpful ways in which we can reconnect with that place of something that we already knew at some point in our lives. And I guess my question is, how do you think it's important sometimes to have time where it's like, this is a creative space and it's not supposed to turn into anything, and separate from time where you are building towards a deadline, a work product, some commitment? Do you think it's important to have something that's doesn't have a boundary on it?
I think there's an obvious answer to that question. My answer is yes. Do I remember to do that? Sometimes. I think I also sometimes have like a little like elaborate stove metaphor. I think Laura Lee also uses this of like front burner projects and then like back burner projects, and like a lot of and then sometimes there's like a crock pot project, and sometimes there's a fermentation project. I'd be like, oh yeah, just sort of like just like little like go out to a restaurant project. I don't know, like sometimes I'll just I like to take space to make. I feel like drawing fills that role a lot for me. I'll just like be like, okay, I'm just gonna draw something. Just gonna draw something that's not for a thing. Squishing stuff. I also sometimes teach classes to kids. I teach a summer stop motion animation camp, and that's a great time both to like witness their play and learn from it, and also just sort of like, if I happen to have a group of quiet children, get to make my own whatever I want to make. Like get like a nice amount of noodling. Time for built-in time for noodling. It's good. Jeremy, and then this person.
So I know we're talking kind of a lot about around your process, but I'm wondering like specifically what is an oceanic voyage that you have out there right now? If there's one you're okay to share.
Oceanic voyage. So something that I have been like thinking about starting to bring in, and I have taken steps such as purchasing small quantities of materials, which is also like, but that's sort of part of the material. For me, the materials is also part of the exploratory phase. But in like 2020, when I was stuck in my studio, I would go to my studio because it had fewer people in it than my house. And I would just be like in my studio, and I was like, man, I should make a like big giant outdoor puppet show of some kind. And I was like, what's something that's in the public domain? I was like, And I like, I grew up completely not religious and have become a Quaker as an adult, so I have sort of a like very casual, non-traumatized relationship to Christianity. I would say a sort of like fascination with its imagery and trappings. And I was like, well, Bible stories are in the public domain. And then I was like, if I were to like tell a Bible story, and I was like, what if I told the book of Job? And then I sort of like laughed about it for a while. It's like really intense. And I was like, no, too soon. It's like about a month longer. I was like, I have to wait longer for the pandemic to be behind us, so I'm going to tell the book of Job. But it has sort of just like floated as like, what if I made a puppet show of the book of Job? And then I sort of like thought of various funny things like, God speaks as the voice from a whirlwind in the book of Job, and I was like, what if I just lined up a bunch of fans and then turned them all on the audience, like blow fans on the audience? This would be hilarious and amazing. And so it's just sort of like something where like every once in a while I kind of think about what will be in my giant puppet show of the book of Job. So I feel like that's something that's kind of like been out there for a long time. Or recently, I worked very part-time at Bodo's, and that's a great time for just sort of being like, what kind of puppet show would I do someday? I don't know. I was also thinking of like making a guerrilla puppet show of sock puppets that act out how harmful the loudness of football games is to the community and the hearing of the people who are there. As because I'm within hearing distance of the football stadium and it makes me really angry all the time. I was like, I think I want like to enact vengeance where I do a sock puppet show outside of the offices of whoever's in charge of the football program, like sneak in there. So that's sort of something that's like, now you all know about my guerrilla protocol, pretending not to know. You need earplugs, you need earplugs. Anyway, so just sort of like trickling those little, those are a couple that are kind of like, so right now I'm like working on a puppet show about lichen, but for a long time it was like, someday I want to make a puppet show about lichen. I'm sort of like, what would that be about? And I think that has kind of turned into like this show and like maybe three or four possible other shows about lichen that could happen some other time and that are also sort of, it's spawned. They're floating out there.
Is the noise from the football game the voice from the whirlwind?
No, I think those are different shows.
And what if your ocean voyage never ends? I mean, what if it doesn't bear fruit? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't
Okay.
like.
No pressure.
It's not really up to me whether to pay or not, in some sense.
But
I
for
think
you,
as
is it okay?
as this person was mentioning, like, I don't necessarily know when to say goodbye to ideas that
Right.
I don't make. But I think even if they're not really booster rockets, imagining that they're booster rockets feels very supportive. Like, okay, that idea needs to happen so that some other idea could take place. This person was raising their hand. Yes.
This is actually a good segue. We talk a lot about like the journey and starting a journey and all that. How do you know when it's done? How do you know when to stop? How do you know when something's complete?
Oh. Well, I'm a performing artist, so usually what happens is that I set a deadline, and I invite a bunch of people to come see it, and then I perform it, and then it's done.
So it's like you're forced to stop.
It's very concrete that I think maybe that's different from making a visual art project that you don't know when you're gonna. Yeah, I make an opportunity for myself to share it, and when at that time that I share it, it's however done it's gonna be then. And if I decide later I want it to be more done, I'll make another opportunity to share it, and that will sort of be its time of doneness. If he has another question, go for it.
Have you ever had like a project that you're done, you're like, I'm done, I'm stepping away, and not like with no intention, to reprise, yeah, like, or refine?
Yeah, I've definitely had a couple of shows that like, I did that show, I thought it was great, and I was like, I think there was a shadow puppet show that I did at McGuffey in 2019 that was cool and great and also sort of like too rickety. I was like, these things are not gonna like last, they're not gonna like, it was sort of like too much of a hassle in ways. I was like, okay, I think I like learned a lot from doing this and I don't feel the need to ever reprise that show, and I sort of like recycled some of its components. A lot of the things they're spray painted on my car are stenciled from pieces from that show about black locust trees. But yeah, and sometimes I have objects that literally physically decay. I had like I had chitons made out of cut honey locust pods. You know, those like big sort of twisty pod thing. I love honey locust pods. I want to make more sculptures out of them. But it also turns out if you put them in your attic for a year, creatures eat them. So then those were no more. No, there are other things that have, like sort of gotten holes in them and like, okay, well, let's just recycle it into something else. Yeah.
I was curious because you prefaced part of your discussion with a statement, and you said, "I'm not a writer." I haven't seen your performances, but to me, puppeteering, performing is writing. So I was just curious of your train of thought there.
I think I'm not invested in thinking of myself as a person who puts words on paper and having people read the words. And that's maybe a more narrow definition. Do I write? Of course, yes, I write, and I do appreciate when people have inclusive definitions of things. People say that they're not an artist, and I poke them about it. Or people say that they're not a mathematician, and I poke them about it. But I don't hold writing in my like sphere of what's important to my identity. Maybe is a better way of saying that. And I'm like not. And what I share with the world is not. There's writing that goes there. There's writing that's behind the scenes, behind what I share to the world, and there's like words that I say that are words that I wrote, but also like how I say them and what goes with them is as important as the text that they have. So, I'm not a written text sharer. Well, I would love to get you guys to talk to each other about what practices keep you going in your work and what rhythms you find. Is that the part we do now? Is it the mingling?
I mean, so yeah.
I think it's official. It's been officially mingling time for 5 minutes.
Yeah. Well, no. So it's 9:45. So I mean, if you have to get to your jobs, you can. But if you want to keep hanging out and talk to each other and help finish the pastries and the coffee, that would be great. Sweet. And I'm assuming Miranda can stick around and
I'll stick around.
Jump around. Yeah.
I don't have work.
And yeah, everyone else, thank you so much for coming.
I work in the
evenings. Hope to see you next month, the next Creative Mornings. Thank you.